Well, get a start?
Cal, why don't you go ahead and start?
First of all, I'd like to say that I'm your biggest fan here. I think you're a smart, intelligent, aware. You pay attention to more of what's going on here than anybody else that I've seen. And I really admire that about you. That's why I don't believe that you were foolish enough as an expert cook to pour out the dinner without knowing the difference between split peas and oatmeal. If I thought you were a bumbling idiot, I would say, accidents happen. I think you are smart. I think you're amazing. I don't think you would accidentally do that. I do think subconsciously you could have done that because you were grumpy about you losing your safe haven in the kitchen. I totally could see an unconscious act happening. I don't know if it was malicious. I would like to hear your perspective on it.
Okay. So, in the time that the incident actually happened, I was in the kitchen with Rob washing the dishes, and that pot was the same pot that not too long earlier you guys had burned the oatmeal inside of. And traditionally, if you want to get that kind of stuff out of that pot, you would boil water in the bottom of it. So before I grabbed the pot, I grabbed it off the stove top. I looked down at it and it was frothy at the top and the water was muggy. Couldn't see any kind of peas on there. And I asked what this was. And the response that I had gotten as a general response is, that's the burnt pot. They're probably boiling the water in there to get it out. Mm-hmm. So I said, okay. At first I was going to pour it down the drain in the kitchen Rob was working in, and he said, go and pour it out the side. And I walked around to the side of the house, didn't look down that pot a bit, and I chucked it. And when I chucked it, I saw the peas come out, which is why I didn't pour all the peas out. Like, as I saw them, I said, oh, and flipped the pot up and brought it back in the kitchen. And I literally sat there shocked, like, oh. Mm-hmm. I made a mistake and poured out, all these split peas. Yeah. There was no malicious intent. There was actually no intent at all except to pour out muggy water that I thought was the burnt oatmeal.
I love your explanation, and explain some things that I had in my mind I couldn't figure out. One of which is, why would you pour some food outside? Because it was on my assumption that you had thought it was the burnt oatmeal you were pouring out. So why would you pour the burnt oatmeal outside?
It wasn't burnt oatmeal. It was.
You thought it was the muggy water.
Yeah, I thought
totally
it was
legit.
The pot that you guys were like cleaning out.
This explains some of the things that I couldn't make clear in my head.
Right.
And I appreciate that. Also, the fact that you did save some of the peas in the bottom lends credence to your story. Does that make sense? If you were maliciously or unconsciously pouring the peas out, it would have been all on the ground.
Right.
But you said you're pouring them out. Oh my goodness, I see some peas. You held on to what was left. I am totally comfortable with the fact that you didn't do it grumpily or angrily and it was an accident.
Right. And I also like to clarify that at no point in time am I grumbly or angry about the fact that I'm not in the kitchen. Mm-hmm. Somebody else working in the kitchen doesn't bother me at all. The actions in which you guys were carrying out obviously aggravates me with certain techniques, but that's why I turn the shoulder to the kitchen and allow you guys just to do your thing. But at no point in time have I just felt like, oh my God, I'm not cooking, I'm mad, I'm aggravated. I actually enjoyed not having to cook this entire week. That was absolutely great for me, and it was good to see somebody else try to do the same thing that I do in there. So
well, see, I'm glad we're having this dialogue.
Don't at no point in time think that was my reasoning behind it, or a reason in general.
No, and here's the thing. I heard from a couple of people that they overheard you and a few other people talking about how you were hoping that Nikki would fail, how this is,
See, that's what happens when you listen to the rumor
that's
mill,
why I'm
and that's one of the
you.
biggest things that's here.
Yes.
Is that you can hear a lot of things, but you have to put facts to that. So if you ever hear anything, the smartest thing for me, the way I work is I come up to the person and I ask them, hey, what's the issue? This was brought to my attention, blase, blase, blase. I don't like it when somebody just assumes something, and because they assume it, they attach intent to that, because that was what your assumption was, that because I was feeling this way,
of course,
I threw all this stuff out.
But I'll also say that my experience watching you interact with others and you screaming at me when I didn't deserve it makes me nervous to have a one-on-one dialogue initiated by me. When you initiate it, it has been wonderful, our conversations.
Okay.
So I love this safe haven to have a mediator so we can communicate and me not feel like you're going to scream at me. This is an awesome interaction.
That makes it seem like I'm this. The way you're verbalizing it is making it seem like I'm just this malice guy where I'm just going to like tear you down every time. And although some people have assumed that I'm unapproachable in the beginning stages of Utopia, that is definitely not the case now, nor should it ever be an assumption. I'm always approachable. I never actually yell and scream at anybody. That one situation that happened was, I would say, more of an isolated thing, but don't ever assume that I'm unapproachable. And please don't ever attach certain words, because you convict people with certain words, especially when you say those words to other people. You know, when you
I
go
didn't
to
talk
somebody,
to anybody else
no,
about
no, no.
it.
What I'm saying, like what you just said, in instance, me going to scream at you. You're glad we have a mediator, because you didn't want to sit in a situation where I would be, you know, yelling at you or screaming at
Yes.
you. And you said the word screaming, and I'm not that person. But by saying it like that, that's what you give off. You give off that that's who I am. And I don't want that to be associated with me.
You know, I appreciate what you're saying. I only have my experience to go off of. And I'm telling you, I'm nervous to talk to you because you did scream at me, and I have heard you scream at other people. When you come to me, it's been awesome. I have loved our conversation.
Okay.
I love the sound of your baritone voice. It makes me freaking warm. I want to hear you sing so bad. But when I have come to you, or when I try to reflect to you, the only experience I have with that has been you screaming at me. It makes me not feel safe.
Okay.
So I love this interaction, and I think that it's beautiful, and I'm totally willing to admit I was mistaken. The actions prove, because you caught the half of the peas, because you did think it was a soapy water, explains why you poured it out on the ground and didn't put it in the compost. I don't think there was any maliciousness there. I totally admit I'm wrong.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
So I guess I would hope I completely see your point in that. And to feel trust, I know that that's a big sticking point for you.
Yes.
I know a big sticking point for you is facts and communication on things, and not being misperceived. I would hope the fact that this went well, that this helps you to kind of build your own trust in,
Yeah, it does,
approaching
absolutely.
Aaron and communicating.
Yes.
And I would hope that this makes you feel more confident in that things have been cleared,
Right.
and that the message has been received.
Yes, just some communication. I wish this would have happened yesterday when it was brought up, instead of all this animosity in the air over the night, you know.
But I think things have been clear, they've
Yes.
been communicated.
And just so
everybody
we're clear,
feeling good?
as far as I'm concerned, we're good on everything.
Okay.
But I'm not pleased with the system, because the system has failed me across the board, and I want to talk about that in dialogue. Like, I want to bring the Tina Cece up on charges of corruption, because I came to him with a complaint, and he didn't put it up on the thing in the ballot like he's supposed to. I did all the paperwork. I followed everything just like I was supposed to. The Chompkins didn't ask the Tina Cece, which is her job. Is there any business in the judge? The head pioneer, Mike, came to me beforehand and said, please don't bring this up right now. There's too much going on. That is messing with a witness and you know, due process. These are all serious problems with the system. I'm here to dialogue about things. Let's find something. Okay, let's streamline it. Let's make it work. Let's go to mediation first before I go to something that will move things along, instead of everyone being like, oh my God, the court system. Yeah. Because
See, here's the thing about that. What you're doing is you are associating the system in which we've created here directly with the way the court system works on the outside, and that's not it.
I didn't say that.
No. What the way you explained it just now,
Okay.
just listening to you, you've mirrored those two things to be the same thing, and that's absolutely not what we do here, and that's not where we're at. What we're at is we've got certain things set up that does resemble the court system on the outside, and then there's other things that there's holes in it, and there's room for building our way, and we have that opportunity.
Let's talk about it.
But to find reasons why things don't work, you know, like conspiracy against the Tina Cece, like it's so open into situations. Mike said, hey, don't do this right now because we would like to do something else. Doesn't mean that he's tampering a witness, or doesn't mean that he's doing that. It's because in this society, we're trying to get something else taken care of, or what have you, and you have the right to a speedy trial, but that's not inside of our Constitution to a speedy trial. That's something that's on the outside of that judicial system. So it really doesn't hold weight.
Well, then I want to
you
have
know,
it amended
in
to the
those ideals.
Constitution. Let's
Exactly.
talk about
Those
it.
are one of
That's
the
what I
those are
wanna
things
talk-
that you do.
No one will talk about it. This is the first conversation I've had about it in the 5 days that I've been trying to say, because everyone's like, the letter of the law says this. The letter of the law. Well, we're here to change the law. We're here to open it up. I thought you were absolutely right about me. The group had agreed, if you're using the group materials, that you should ask the group at a meeting if it was okay. I asked at breakfast, and that's not what the group agreed to. But because it wasn't written down, I couldn't be taken to task because I absolutely broke that rule. I didn't know it was a rule. I'm new here, right? So let's write it down. If the court system depends on writing it down, I want to write it down. I brought another thing that I thought was totally valid resolution to the meeting, and I wasn't meaning to attack you. Say Rob yesterday smashed a bunch of pumpkins, right? He did clean it up, mad respect to Rob. But if he hadn't cleaned it up, I would like to have the opportunity to say, look, there's a biological hazard here that somebody created, that they haven't cleaned up. There's pumpkins rotting in our pond right now that somebody did. But guess what? I can't say anything about it because the law didn't go on the books. It was a reasonable law. If you create a biological hazard, you deal with it. But everyone's like, oh God, what was wrong with that? I was working within the system. I was trying to create a law. Like, I vomited my guts out.
Did you bring it between Tuesday and Thursday? I mean, on Monday and Thursday?
I brought it at the Thursday meeting because you felt like I was attacking you personally, and you're like, you should have talked to me about this. And I was like,
can I, just to clarify, because I don't remember from Thursday, what was the resolution that you brought on
Thursday? I said, if a biological mess is created by someone after I got drunk, it's my job to clean up my vomit.
And was that
it was a resolution
that
that I brought up.
That was it wasn't. We never finalized it or voted on it.
No, but I mean, was it even brought up?
Because he thought it was a personal attack against him. It wasn't.
The peas was what he was talking about cleaning up the peas behind it. And what we said was that's just common sense or nature to clean up behind yourself. But does that need to be a resolution? But it actually is one that's in there stating that you're supposed to clean up behind yourself all messes and mayhem, like the stuff that we have inside the kitchen and plates and stuff like that.
There was no dialogue about it. Everyone just shut me down. There's pumpkins rotting in there right now.
Well, see, I told you that it was in there, and we all said, well, if that's a question of concern, by all means, go back and look at the paperwork, and it's there.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
You know, like it's a lot of the stuff can be resolved amongst these small constitutions that we built. It's not going to be in detail to say, if you break a pumpkin and throw it inside of the lake, you got to do that. But it will say, if you make a mess or if you have to do this, you are to clean it up.
You know that obviously it's difficult bringing in somebody new who kind of has to check in. And
of course, I'm
suddenly
happy to check in. And if I break the rules, I want to be taken to task.
Our history, I mean, it's short history, only 2-month history, but it's still history. You know, this system meetings and with very particular guidelines and with putting things on paper is relatively new to us. Leading up to that point, most of our conflicts were resolved for good or for ill interpersonally. You know, there was no grand conflict resolution scheme. There was no counsel to bring before, no mediator, things like that. And we do come from a foundation of wanting to fix things on a personal level before taking it to a group level.
Of course.
And so,
now see, this could have happened Thursday of last week.
Exactly.
And now
so that is
Monday, and we're finally getting to a little bit of the process.
And so that is definitely the preference that's become part of the culture that we've created here. And so I really don't want you to get the impression that like the only way anything can get communicated or solved is if it's on paper, if it's in the system.
Well, right now it didn't get solved at all. Everything I've tried to do within the system, within the rights, within everything.
But that's my thing is the system is kind of like the next step. That the first step being to solve it interpersonally.
Yes, but why would it wait almost a week to solve it or 4 days, 5 days?
Well, the reason why is because in this place, unlike on the outside world, everybody has a job that relies on somebody else. And in those 4 days that it took for it to come up with, we had a very long weekend. Although you were not, I'm not going to say that you weren't a part of it, you did not agree or want to stand behind most of the activities that happened on this weekend. Everybody else here did.
Yes.
And we all relied on each other to have to take care of that. Now, you would have been more upset had we actually taken that to trial and done those things, and you would have gotten a fair case because we were rushing or because we had to have a meeting or because we had to have this stuff set up for a certain time. So then it would have been unfair, and then at the end of it, you probably would have still been
I'm not upset about it. I just wanted to see the process work out in a fair way.
It wouldn't have worked out, to me, it would not have worked out the way that it is intended, and therefore it wouldn't have gotten its fair share of light. Like, every time we've also had trial, we made time for it. We made sure that everybody had enough time to take care of what they needed to take care of. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, with the Halloween party and everything else, man, it was almost impossible to be able to fit in an hour-long trial or something like that in there. You know what I mean?
The court system, can I talk or you want to talk?
Go ahead.
It should work like this. This is how a fair trial would be. Because Tina Cece said this when you hurt your ear that day. I was like, well, I want to have a trial. Well, let's see how his ear works out, okay? Totally can understand, like, if your ear got infected, if you had to, like, you couldn't talk. Because I like talking to you when it's in a safe environment. I think you're wicked smart. I'm your biggest fan. But if your ear is hurt, no problem. Let's make, the court date on Thursday, and then for Monday, and then your ear got hurt. I'm happy to push it off a week. Oh, wait, it's on Monday, but we have the group, they're voting out. Let's push it off until Thursday. But I want the process to work like the process says it works. It's when corruption, when people make their own decisions on it, that's when I have a trouble. If the group says, okay, we see that there's an allegation, and we're going to push it off till Thursday, or even 2 weeks from now, the Tina Cece does not get to make that choice. That's my rub. When the individual gets to decide, that's when I have a big problem.
See, the Tennessee, we gave certain people certain powers, and if you don't agree with the people's powers, then you can.
Well, then I want to see on paper what his powers say.
But, it's all up there, like exactly who they are and what it is that their jobs are. But today is Monday.
Yes.
The last meeting we had was on Thursday.
Of course.
So then today you would bring it up, or we would bring it up as Kristen is reading the minutes and everything else, and we would say, do we have time to have court today? Do we not? Okay, then let's push it over. But in between those days, you can't just try to come up with it and say we need to have it Saturday, or why aren't we having it Sunday?
I will interrupt and kind of bring things back a little bit. And, to a certain extent, I feel that this may be something to include possibly specifically in writing in the Constitution, in that part of the reason why we created the court system at all, I think, was to be a safeguard against those situations where two individuals coming together could not find a compromise whatsoever. And those situations thus far, and going all the way back through our history to before we even had any kind of system in place, was particularly with very emotionally charged situations. When two individuals, regardless of what the content of the argument was, could not see eye to eye, particularly because of anger, sadness, frustration, that these two individuals just couldn't talk it out. You know? In this situation, neither of you do I see as being individuals who can't figure it out, the fact that this was successful, and so the system,
there will be no need,
is in place so that when it's in the event that two individuals do not have the power to come to a resolution or to come to an agreement on themselves, or when a mediator with these two individuals does not have the power to come to a resolution, say for instance, if you're staunchly in your camp and you're staunchly in your camp, there's no bending or breaking, but then we step back even more and then bring in more parties into the situation. However, considering that you're two very reasonable individuals, this has been fantastic. I don't feel like it's necessary to push it through the court system.
No, see, I disagree 100%. Because last Tuesday, as I recall, was when the peas got thrown out. I'm not bitching to you at all, please. What I'm saying is, it's almost a week now, and we could have sat down in 20 minutes if I'd felt safe. We could have, I could have talked to you on Tuesday. Hey, could you mediate for us? Just because my experience with him has been I'm a little nervous. And as trust grows over time. Yeah, but I'm not, because then I might be doing something against the rules. I wanted to follow the rules exactly, which is what I did, because I'm new.
Well, mediation is any day at any time if you want to.
But that's the thing. We haven't set in this Constitution that any conflict has to go to the Tina Cece first. If that was the case, like, our Tina Cece would be working overtime.
Yeah, but that's the thing. If you have a trusting situation, like we're building our trust now, right? Then I'll be happy to go talk to you about something, or I'll be happy to go talk to whoever. I mean, you're the only one that's screening me, so you're the only one I'm nervous about talking about.
I mean, it's like even if you went to somebody else, like in a regular setting, if you had went to Dedeker before she became the mediator in this situation, just said, hey, Dedeker, I would love to talk to Aaron, but I just can't, so-and-so. Like, Dedeker comes and talks to me and says, hey, what's going on? Hey, you want to sit down with me and Cal and talk about this? We can sit down and talk about it, and it's nothing formal. It's just like three people who know each other sitting down having a conversation. But it shouldn't have to go so far as to, I need to have this conversation with the Tennessee, and then it'd be appointed mediation. It's before any type of system kicks in, you still have logic of just being a regular old person.
If you got trust, of course.
I mean, I don't think that trust for some situations is okay. Trust for other situations is just like, hey, you trust Dedeker enough to talk to Dedeker about it. All right, let's go. And if you don't, you don't have to take it so far to task. Like, not everything that we do here has to be delegated under the system that we've created. So that to be honest, we don't have to use it.
That's
What it does is it forces us to handle the situations one-on-one before we have to take it through that long, drawn-out
Look
process.
how long drawn out it's been. It's been Tuesday. It's been an entire week. And, like, you know, I've been dissatisfied
So then
with
why
the
do you still
situation.
want to take it to court?
I don't want to take it to court. We've just mediated it. There's no longer taking it to court.
I do think it would be awesome, and I think you could probably write up a really well-written proposal to add the mediation process officially into the Constitution so that we can just add that in. But I think we probably have to kind of wrap this up because we do need to
I'm
start
content.
up
I really enjoy it. And I totally enjoy your quick wit. You come back quick with things. You're smart. Like I said, I enjoy talking with you, and I would enjoy litigating with you, you know, in court, because you rocked my world in the last court thing. I wanted to vote for you just because you're such a good speaker. You know what I mean?